Welcome, everyone. We are live, hopefully, for this week's episode of the NBL SuperCoach video. FIBA break is almost over. We are T-minus 2 days away from the NBL being back. It's going to be very good. Obviously, we've got two of the best teams in the competition, although one has been hampered that we can talk about a bit later by some probably poor decision-making. But they're going to be kicking off the round. I think they're the first game anyway. I don't think there's an early game. So, yeah, looking forward to it. It's been good having a bit of a break. We've got just over half the season to go. This is round 10 of 20, so we've got 11 out of the 20 rounds to go. So still plenty of time if you're doing well to still do better, or if you're not doing so well like a few of us, then plenty of time to make that make the change, and things can keep picking up from there. Let me just pop this out. And see if that works. Change that to 5. Cool. All right. Hopefully we should be good to go there. Oh, okay. No, that's fine. So this is how my team looks. I haven't changed anything since the end of last round. I did a couple of trades just to see if the money worked, but yeah, bit of a backseat over the FIBA break, which has been good. We went to the last Hawks game of the round against the Kings, so that was a good game. Always good when the Hawks get a win, but no, good vibe there. Sellout crowd, always very good at the WEC. And a bit of family stuff, some big birthday celebrations. So I haven't had the mind as much on NBL until the FIBA warm-up game. So we obviously had a few NBL stars and players represented across different nations. Australia, obviously the most predominant, but we had New Zealand, we had South Sudan, we had Almanza playing for Spain, obviously Hyung Jung Lee playing for Korea. I probably missed some people, but yeah, it was pretty fruitful. Definitely some news and semi-news out of that, so we'll go over that a bit later. But I think the main thing that we all need to be looking forward to is some juicy schedules. We only had 2 teams on the double last week, so those that had the Bannons and the Prathers of the world like myself, or the Cooks, not too bad. A little bit of disappointment coming from Doolittle with his issue with the knee. Tyrell Harrison doing some Tyrell Harrison things, and Prather also being that late out. So there's a bit of stuff we need to keep an eye on, but we also had some good scores. Even just looking at my team, Ben Henschel. If I had known Prather wasn't going to play the second game, I would have started Henschel. But I guess that is what it is. PJC went low for a lot of people that backed him in on the single, which for his lowest score of the year. So that did hurt those that started him, but definitely wouldn't be too concerned. We're coming into 11 rounds to go, and in those 11 rounds, New Zealand only have 3 singles. So they've got 8 doubles, 2 lots of 4. They've got 4 doubles, 1 single, 4 doubles, and then a couple singles so you can move it out at the end of the year. So he's definitely that near season-long hold. I wouldn't be too concerned, but perhaps his teammate that I've got sitting in the forward position might be of some concern to all of us that have Karim at the moment. So we'll bring up that news a little bit later. But potential issue going into the week. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's a couple days to go, so we'll put some news up here. But keep an eye on the socials before the round starts on Thursday, just to get any confirmation. There's some stuff semi-locked in, but there's a couple things we won't know for another day or two. While wait for a few more people just to jump in, hopefully anyway. We'll we'll go over my team. So looking at that, I always had Malik Lewis penciled in to go out this week. I've got a bunch of cash in the bank too, so he can go to anyone. The fact that he had a nice score is very, very tasty. That 30 does make his break even 4. So there's a world where you could potentially hold onto him just to get a little bit more of a cash bump. The only issue with that is they've got, 3 singles in a row and only 1 double in their next 6 games. So he's probably not one that we're going to really want to hold on to too much. Just depends on if we get news that our Krim Lopez is definitely out, then he'll probably go, even though they've got that crazy good run. Don't want him to be dropping cash. Was on the SuperCoach Hub podcast last night with a good mate Verns and also Jay Peterman, who was the winner of AFL SuperCoach in, I think it was 2022. It was either 21 or 22. I'm pretty sure. So it was good chatting with those guys. Brought up the fact that, Lopez could be someone like we had some issues last year with a couple of players that you might have been forced to hold on to for a little bit longer and you lost a bunch of the cash that you gained on him. Now, if you held Lopez for 1 week and he dropped a bit of cash and you moved him on next week, you're still probably going to be net positive by quite a significant margin depending on when you jumped on him. But yeah, that's definitely one to consider. If Bannon is okay to go, then I mean, if he's okay to go, definitely keep him. There's a world where can still hold him if he's ruled out. Obviously, they have the single this week, so he'd be on the bench. And then they've got that, 8 doubles in a row. So it's just essentially saving that trade, I suppose. And then, yeah, I don't want to. I don't think I want to use. I have 2 boosts remaining. I don't think I want to use one if there's no major dramas. If, for example, the news came out that I had 3 people not playing, I might have to boost or at least trade out 2 of those non-playing people. But we've got some decent coverage. Obviously, there'll be some things on everyone's mind, like bringing in Cotton, who's back. He had a pretty shit game against the Bullets, who he does play in the first game, or Perth's. Pretty sure it's Perth's first game this week. But that's at home. He'll want to bounce back. He's had a week of normal, or some practice and perhaps a little bit of extra time to get back to full 100%. I mean, even if he was only playing at like 80 to 90%, if he's back to near 100, then it's pretty hard not to have him. So we might go through. So that's just chatting about my team and some potential players. We might look at some other of the players to do for anyone that's going to watch this back on as a replay that is either in the stream tonight or misses it or whatever, and you want to watch it back. Hopefully, you can go through some stuff here to be kind of similar to the normal video format. I won't have all the the graphics that I normally do, but we can still go through and chat about some of the potential options. So that is the team. I'll just hide that. Okay, so let me just jump back across to players. So if we look at the traded in and traded out, I know we did go through this with the guys on the SuperCoach Hub video last night. If you haven't checked that out, please do. I shared it on Twitter or X, so you can jump across and have a look. But in terms of the trade outs, a couple of surprises. Doolittle, as we spoke about last night, is hopefully some people that perhaps don't know the injury status, which is that he should hopefully be okay. Pepper, yep. Sobey, yep. Cook, not so sure about. I'd be hanging on to him. Trez, yeah, he unfortunately has to. Hickey, yeah, you've lost you. For those that didn't move last week, unfortunately, you did lose a bunch of cash, but he is still up. So jump off now. Or I think with Hickey, it's either you jump off him this week because it only costs, what, 50K or something to go to Cotton, or you hold him pretty much for the rest of the year. I think it's probably one of those two. Tyrell, I mean, it's going to be good for those of us that pick him up either this week or next week that don't have him. He'll be nice and cheap, but yeah, he definitely hurt owners, as he did to me in round 1. Hurt and Glover still with some money to make, but their schedule, and Karim Lopez with the injury issue, and perhaps people just jumping off to capitalize on that cash. In terms of trade-ins, number 1 is pretty simple. He's still got 2 doubles in a row. Best player in the league. Historically, one of the best SuperCoach players when convert the old format scores. Star, he'll be fine. Cooks, I like it as the 1 week play. As you see the thumbnail, he's obviously featuring. He's definitely a good captaincy option. There was we were chatting last night, and people were a bit cool on him, or more, I think it was more Vern mentioned the potential issue that maybe his teammate, who is a little bit further down the list, might be the better play. 40K cheaper, roughly, and when he's on and plays the right amount of minutes, he is very much on. Rocco, good form over the FIBA break. You know, he got a little bit of opportunity. Not that he had massive games. He's got that negative break even. They still have that crazy schedule. If he finally gets somewhat of a decent run under Justin Schuller, can he repay the faith that many coaches have had with him from the start of the year? Bateman, obviously a great break even as well. Maybe, I mean, it's essentially a straight swap from Hickey. I know he plays 1 less game, but you get that cash rise, and he's got all those doubles in that crazy schedule. And we probably don't need to go through every single player, but what we can do is jump across. Let's shift across to some news. So for anyone that hasn't seen what's been going on, the crazy stuff that happened in the Melbourne-Adelaide game at John Cain Arena just before the break, that's all been settled somewhat now. So we've got Trez and Kendrick Davis with the main, not issues, but for SuperCoaches, the main issues. So Trez, 3-game suspension and fines, but one of his pairs of his shoes is worth more than that, I'm sure. And Kendrick Davis for 2 games. Now, I think if you're Adelaide, that is a massive win. I'm not surprised that the league would want to keep these suspensions as low as possible. Obviously, Trez is great for the league. He's great for the publicity. He's great as a player. He's one of the best players that the league's had. It's really good to have him here. But yeah, 3 games is definitely a win for them. I know that Bogut put up the differences between the Trez incident and if you broke it down to its nuts and bolts versus Aaron Baines last year. And, you know, Aaron Baines got 5 games for it. Trez potentially, yeah, I don't know. I'd probably, if I was handing it out, I think I'd go more for Trez. But good for KD to only have 2 games. It's tough because of the letter of the law of what's happened, but that's not too bad. So if we look at their schedule, so Davis comes back December 8th versus Perth, and that is the 2nd game of a doubleheader, I believe. So he misses this round and the 1st game next round, but then he's back for the 2nd game of that round. So it's a little bit awkward with him because that means he's essentially 0 single, and then he's got 6 doubles out of 7. So it's a bit of an interesting one, whether we look at him next week, even with only playing 1 game because of wanting to get on him before some price rises and whatnot. Trez, though, missing the 3 games means he just has the clean miss of this week and next round. So he comes back for the single in round 12, and then, well, that's if he comes back. The rumors of him not, but I'm sure that's not the case. So it's a little bit interesting. If you he kind of throws some spanners in the work. We was chatting with the guys last night. People could potentially have gone, say, a Jalen Adams and then moved him straight across to Kendrick Davis or Xavier Cooks and moved him to Montrez, but that's a little bit out the window now. I think it's good, though, for SuperCoach anyway. It's a little bit of a spanner in the works, which is always nice to make things a little bit different and spice things up a bit. Moving across to Brisbane. So Josh Bannon didn't play in... was it both of the Boomers games or he got injured in the first one? I can't remember exactly how it went down, but he had a bit of an ankle injury. So still no update on that. Hopefully we should know before their game on Friday. And I think we should, unless it's a game time decision, we should know on Thursday before the first game. So if we need to trade him out, hopefully we know. But Mick Randall's also saying that Casey Prather and Dengadell should both be... I'd read from this they're more likely than unlikely to play, which is good for me and the rest of us who brought in Prather. Dengadell, maybe not so much. That is just that other piece in the rotation that could take away minutes and potential scoring from some of the players that we want to have the minutes and the scoring. Team with the most news, cheese and rice. We've got the New Zealand Breakers. So let's start from the bottom. Big signing of Taco Fall. So he signed for the remainder of this year and all of next season as well. Freddie Gillespie, if you listen to some reports, the Breakers are trying to say that he wanted to leave when he was offered a bunch of money and that's why they let him go. But if you listen to him and perhaps some of the other players, I think he wanted to stay and they kind of wanted him to go so they could have Taco playing. A lot of people disagreeing with this decision. I'm one of them for the Breakers anyway. For my Hawks that play them on Thursday, I think this is great. Taco's either not going to play or he's not going to be fit. They're going to be well and truly down. Gillespie was a great defensive piece, and I think the Hawks will do very well against them. So in that sense, I think it's fantastic. But no, I think for the league and for the Breakers and Breakers fans, it's definitely not ideal. But in positive news, though, Max Darling and Mojave King, both probable for the game against the Hawks. But Jonah Bolden, Mick Randall saying unlikely. I think that's because from his original ETA, he should still have at least a week before he's back. So that, again, is another knock in their big man departments. Menenga, speaking of knocks, had that issue and didn't suit up for the tallback or didn't play in I think it was the however many games for New Zealand. Well, the Tall Blacks, not the Breakers. But all good to play. So if you've got him, you can definitely hold. With all their injuries, maybe he's a potential trade-in. I'm not sure. And then in some other big news, Karim Lopez sitting out the second game for Mexico with an ankle injury, apparently. We don't have a lot more information than that. But again, they do play the first game of the round, so hopefully we will have some more concrete news beforehand. So fingers crossed he plays. But if he doesn't, then that forces your hand anyway. So if you can jump off and just take that cash. And then just some general other injury news. So Christian Doolittle been practicing, so he should be all good for this week. They've got the home doubleheaders against Brisbane and who's the other team? New Zealand. So hopefully he is fit because that could be a couple of great scoring games. People probably saw that Jalen Galloway had the shoulder issue. He was ruled out for the rest of the year. That's now been 100% confirmed after he's had the surgery and that he's going to miss the rest of the season. So the Kings, who probably going to do a lot of soul searching over this FIBA break, try and work out rotations and roles and some egos and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully for their sake and for us as super coaches, things are a little bit more simplified, but that's a piece that I guess is taken away. Haven't heard anything about an injury replacement, which is not surprising. They are spending a lot of money already on that. A lot of money already on that roster. And Jack White is looking to return against the Kings in their single this week, which if he does, it might work out well for us. If he could come out, he looks okay, but he has a bit of a lower score and goes down in cash, then they've got back-to-back doubles, so it could be a nice pickup next week for us. Hopefully, for his sake, though, he's all healthy and good to go. For us, as super coaches that don't own him, hopefully he comes out a little bit of time, drops some cash, and he's nice and cheap next week. All right, so for some reason, it doesn't want to show me the team. There we go. Not sure what's happening there, but anyway. Yeah, so back to the team. Let's have a look at some potential moves and who we should be looking at. Obviously, we've got a little bit of an issue with not knowing who's going to be 100% with Bannon and Lopez and Doolittle, technically all having injury clouds, and Prather. So those that are confirmed to play, we've got Menenga, Pinder, PJC, Henschel, Cook, and I think Lewis. So I think of all of that, best case scenario, everyone's fit and we can make whatever moves we want to, we've got nearly 200K in the bank. So the most likely scenario is Lewis, either Lewis and Lopez or Lewis or Lopez out to probably a Xavier Cooks type. If the money works and I can go... Actually, let me just double check. No better way to find out than doing it. No, okay. So we can't quite afford to go Lopez and Lewis to Cooks and Cotton, which is a shame. But we can afford to do Lopez and Lewis to Cooks and Bateman for extra cash. So we'd be missing out on Malik Lewis going up. Hopefully, we'd think he should go up a bit in cash. But we I guess, offsetting that with Bateman. And we still have the two doubles in PJC and Henschel that we can play on court. Or we miss Cooks and we go to an option that I quite like, which is Sam Froling. They do only have the double this week before back-to-back singles, but then they have 5 in a row and one of the only teams to have one in the last round of the year. So Froling could be a nice piece to just have and keep. With a break-even of 61, he's probably around that mark anyway. I don't think he'll increase or decrease too much. Going up against New Zealand without many bigs, hopefully potentially just Menenga and Dane Pino, he could have a decent game, finally have that big explosion that we want to see from him. But another option that a few people have been talking about, including Dave, last year's winner, is teammate Darius Days. So he's got a break even of 50, and I think I can say this because I am not only a Hawks fan, but a SuperCoach fan as well. He's been shit for quite some time. Preseason looked like a stud. First few rounds, we're thinking, who's Gary Clark? We forget all about that guy. Since then, not so much. I don't think it's quite showing up on the layout, but in his last... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Yeah, so his first 5 games of the year, he had 3 40s, or 3 scores in the 40s, 1 in the 30s, and then a low of 22. Since then, his highest is 23, which is hit twice, and everything else is under 20, with 3 scores under 15, and 2 in single figures. Not great reading, but he does play against a team that he had one of his high scores on in his little rut in the Phoenix, and also plays Perth the following round, which he had the other high score for 23. So I guess if you look at Darius Days and you knew that he was going to score in his next 3 games, what's that, 46, say between 60 and 70, I think you very much take that at his price and with their schedule to come. But because he's got that break-even of 51, if he doesn't have a big round this week, he's going to be cheap. Cheap indeed. So He's one to keep an eye on if you're strapped for cash. But I think that the way to go for a lot of people is obviously going to be Bryce Cotton at a ridiculously cheap price. Yeah, so if I move out Lopez and Lewis, I can afford Cotton and Froling, Cotton and Days. I can pretty much anyone but Trez and Cook. So I think this is going to be a likely scenario. A lot of teams, it's going to be very common to have the backcourt of PJC and Cotton this week. But I don't know if a lot of people are going to have PJC, Cotton, Cook. If they do, well, that's cool. That's where I'm at. But if not, having them interchangeable works out really well. Obviously, you play Cotton the next 2 weeks. And then after that, you can just play Cook. And technically keep Cotton on your bench. And then when they have doubles again, you can just chuck him back in there. Cook has doubles that entire time still. But it's definitely a play. I think at worst, he's a good hold for the next 2 doubles anyway. And potentially the week after when hopefully his break-even's a bit lower and he'll start going up in cash. The other scenario could be if Josh Bannon is ruled out or Christian Doolittle. If one of either of those guys are ruled out, we'd move them on instead of maybe instead of Lopez, but probably instead of Lewis. If it's Bannon, we could probably move him on instead of Lewis, and then we get the cash rise from him. If Doolittle's out, I think he's definitely a trade, though. I think I was saying before, Bannon is potentially a hold if he's just going to miss this week with their crazy schedule. Then I don't have to trade him back in, not wasting the 2 trades to move him in and out. But if Doolittle's out, then that does change things. It would definitely mean that we can afford Cooks and Cotton. But we would be playing Lopez if he's fit, or Ben Henschel at the forward spot, which, I suppose we could technically be playing Menenga. Oh, no, we can't because we don't have DPP. DPP is very important for those that play the other SuperCoach formats and fantasy formats in general. You will know that DPP can be very frustrating, but also very important. And looking at this team, I can't move Menenga unless I trade another center eligible player. So the other option is we could use our 3rd boost. We still have 2 remaining, and that would allow us to bring in Cotton, Cooks, and someone else. Maybe Cotton, Cooks, and Bateman. And make a bit of cash there. I think that usually, I'm always unsure until we get closer to the round tipping off about trades, but this week, I don't even have like one player locked in. It's not like in past weeks, it's I know I'm bringing in Lopez. It's just who's going to be the other guy. Or I know I'm bringing in Cook, but am I going to bring in Bannon or Tyrell? It's one of those ones. This is not one of those weeks. I can't even say I'm 100% on bringing in Cotton. I definitely think he's a great get, and he's likely to come in, but not 100% certain. Just jump across. Now I think we can talk about another important thing this week, and that is captain. So we are going to look at Illawarra, Sydney, Perth, and New Zealand. The 4 teams on the double, and there is some juicy players among those teams. Obviously, these top 3... Sorry, let me just flick across to that. So obviously, the top 3 there should very much be in contention. Averaging extreme numbers, but another good thing about them all is their floors and the ceilings as well. So they tick all the boxes. I think I think I ranked them Cooks, PJC, Adams, Cotton, or Cotton Adams when I was chatting with the guys on the SuperCoach Hub show last night. I think I'm still there. Cooks, he just does it every which way. Same with Adams. Same with all of them, really. Cotton is probably the one that is the least stat sheet stuffer. I know he can dish it out, get a few assists, pick up a few steals, and the occasional board from a long shot that just bounces off. But I think I prefer the other three. Adams is going to be the most differential, especially if we look at that overall ownership. And I think PJC will be the most captained because he should be the most owned. If people have held either of those Kings guys, which, especially with Adams' injury stuff, fair play to you, you should go one of them, I think, just so you've got them as the differential. Try and maximize on that as much as you can, especially if you're chasing. PJC should be the safest play in terms of numbers. If I have multiple of these guys, or if I bring in one of the Kings, I'm going to captain them because you bring him in for 1 week as a double, even if you hold him, but you bring him in for this double, you're obviously backing him in to score a decent amount. So I think should captain them if you're making that move. Cotton, he should still do very well against Brisbane. I know that Mitch Norton Cotton was not great in that matchup, and Mitch Norton guarded him really well, which probably happens again, but I don't think he'll be as poor as he was in that game. Yeah, so if we're looking at it, I would say the order is probably in that, almost in that average order. I'd say Cooks, PJC, Adams, and then Cotton. I think there's enough pod plays in the ownerships of the Kings guys that you don't need to look too smoky. But if you are, do we back in some of the Hawks boys? I don't know if I'd go Froling for captaincy. He's pretty safe in terms of a floor, but he just hasn't shown that monster game yet. It'd be more so a Trey Kell if he can really bounce back. He had a pretty shocking game against the Kings. Like watching it live, he was just forcing a lot of stuff. Probably wasn't run really well, but that extra week of him being back, hopefully he's back to full fitness. He's not worrying about the back issue. He should be better for it. I know the last time that I liked the move of him being the pod play captain when they had the double was when he got injured, and that just backfired majorly. He got injured in the first half of the first game on the double, so I won't advise for it again, but I think we're pretty okay with the first four mentioned. So we've gone through, just trying to go back through, I think if you have some kind of semi-structure from like how we've done it in the normal videos. Trade outs would be the other one. I know we did briefly touch on it. So we'll do top 10% of coaches. Generally, I mean, all coaches should be considered because obviously but even if your ranking is not in the top 10%, if you're engaging in content, especially smaller content, people like myself, then you're definitely in the top 10% of players. That's for sure. Probably a lot higher, but we'll go off the top 10%. If we're looking at the keep there, I could definitely say a few. If Doolittle's fit, he's a keep. Sobey, Pepper, Hurt. I can see the frustrations with Harrison, but I think he's a keep too. Unless you're doing a 1 week rental and you've got everything else in your team set and you're just doing the trades to maybe going him to a Xavier Cooks, and then you're going to make the move back next week. But otherwise, yeah, I think you hold on to Tyrell. Their run's just so juicy. Same with Cook. Even if you were going Cook to a Cotton or an Adams, unless he's the only guy you can trade to get 2 doubles and you're bringing in one of them, I think you still keep him. Again, their run's really good. He's been really consistent. He's been good, so I think you hold on to him. Lopez is that tricky one. If he's fit, it's even trickier, obviously, whether you keep him or not. We've seen that monstrous ceiling, and with the injury issues that they have he should still be getting minutes if he's fit. But I guess that's at the big man department, whereas they'd be playing small ball because a lot of the people that are around his position, that 3-4, are coming back. You know, Mojave King's coming back, Max Darling's coming back. Well, presumably they're both more likely than unlikely to be back. So does that affect him as well? He's got that break even. You've made a lot of money on him. Do you want to sacrifice some of that and hope that he comes good with their very, very nice run? 4 doubles in a row is nothing to sneeze at. Everyone else, I mean, Bannon, like we said before, it's if he's fit, keep him. If he's out and it's just this week, he's still a potential to keep. But if, that ankle, he's going to miss multiple games, and he's, even with their great schedule, he's got to go. And in terms of the buys, let me just see if that's... Yep, that is coming up through. Cool. Yeah, in terms of the buys, everyone on that list... Mooney is an interesting one. I know a lot of people are looking at it. They've got the 4 doubles in a row. We've seen that he can have some pretty good games. He's now less than starting price. But I don't know if I'd be going for it. Essentially, he's had 2 bad games, and everything else has been good or better. But... talking about their injuries, you know, some of those games, a lot of those games where he was playing well, McCarron was out, so he was essentially playing the backup point and playing alongside PJC. And then when he wasn't alongside him, he was running the team, and that inflated the scoring a little bit. And some of his monster shooting performances as well inflated the scoring. So I don't know if I'd go for it. It is 4 doubles in a row. He is cheap. In terms of starting price, he's just under it. But you look at Bateman, who has an even better schedule, better break even. Not this week. Obviously, he's got 1 game versus 2. But in the shorter term, he's got that better run. They don't have the single in between. He's just got the 8 doubles straight rather than the 4-1-4. So he's potentially that better option. But I don't hate it. I'd be going one of the other guards on the list over Mooney, but maybe that's where the differential play comes into it. Windler, I'm not so sure about. I personally wouldn't do it. Yes, his break even's all right, and he has had some good scores. He's had some pretty poor scores too. But my biggest thing is he's just injury prone. It obviously being burnt a lot in both the NBL fantasy formats and other codes as well. Guys that are injury prone can just really ruin things. I know it's good when they look fit and they pay off, but I don't think there's a worse feeling of you go, oh, Dangerfield, he's always a star, let's just bring him in. And then, oh, no, he's done the hammy, or insert any other injury prone player into that. But yeah, I don't think I do it for that reason. They also only have the 2 doubles before having, 4 singles in a row. So I think if you're looking for a 2-week play, let's say that's what it is. Cotton's $70 or $64,000 more. That's not a massive jump. I mean, if you're looking at the forward spot, Menenga's got more doubles and is cheaper. Bateman's only a little bit more. Yeah, I don't think I like the Windler move. I could be proven wrong. He might come out and have those big double-double games with the 15 rebounds that, you know, he should be doing from all reports and from his history. But yeah, I think I'd be avoiding Windler. Everyone else, Mooney's questionable. Avoid Windler. Everything else is very understandable. So if we were doing a normal video format, yeah, avoid Windler. Captaincy options: Cooks, Adams, PJC, Cotton, in the order of Cooks, PJC, Adams, Cotton. Trade ins. Yeah, we like all of those. If I was picking a buy out of this, I'd probably have to say Cotton. If we were doing the normal format video. Back-to-back doubles, the cheapest he'll ever be. I shouldn't say ever, maybe towards the twilight of his career if he sticks around, but yeah, the cheapest he's going to be, absolute stud. We hang on to him. Sorry, we bring him in. And in terms of who to sell, would say, yeah, Sobey gone, Pepper gone, Hurt gone, despite a good game, a bit of a bounce back game. And, well, Doolittle, Lopez, Bannon are all they watch this space. If any of them miss, I think if Bannon's the only one that if he's going to miss one game or one round, you can hold him. Everyone else, I think if they're missing at least one game, they go. Part of their benefit is the schedule and the doubles, and if they miss that, yeah, especially with break evens, I don't think that it is necessarily worth it. And that covers off most of the stuff. Been a bit disjointed in how we've had it set out, but how does one just so not quite sure how to make that pop out, but anyway, that is okay. So we're just checking that. We'll do a quick news recap as well. So for anyone that missed the start of the stream or missed the news, long story short, Trez is missing 3 games and Davis is missing 2. It means that Trez misses just the next 2 rounds flat and Davis will miss this round and the first game of next round. We're still unsure about Bannon. Hopefully we should know at least a bit of an update over the next couple of days before the round starts. Fingers crossed. Unless he's a game time decision, we should know by, I think it's 5 p.m. or 5:30 Eastern time on the day before. So we'll know before the Hawks Breakers game if he's not a game time decision, if he is ruled in or out. Prather and Dengadell look like they both should be fit to play. The Breakers apparently let Gillespie go, but the other word is that they maybe forced him to move out, so they got to bring in Taco Fall, who's signed for the rest of this year and next season. Not necessarily the biggest fan of that, but anyway, we move on. Kareem Lopez sat out their second game for Mexico, apparently with an ankle injury. We're not sure on what the situation is there, so again, need to keep an eye out for that one. If he's going to miss, he's probably a trade. If he's going to play, he's potentially a hold. But still potentially a trade anyway to maximize on the cash. Max Darling and Mojave King both look like they're going to play, and Sam Menenga is all good to go. Doolittle has been training, and hopefully he should be fine. He's not expected to miss any games. It isn't as positive as I thought, though. It's just he's not expected to keep him out of games. It isn't he's 100% fit and firing, and he's all good. So still keep an eye on that. Galloway is going to miss the rest of the year for the Kings, so that, I guess, shortens their crazy rotations by 1. And Jack White is practicing and hopeful to be back against the Kings. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on all the news. If you're not following already, please feel free to do so. At FantasyPhoenix _ the link, I think the link should be in the description of the video below, but that's over on Twitter or X. Any news that pops up, I'll be sharing there. So make sure to be following along. Any questions, if you were either on the live and didn't want to ask them for any reason, just lurking in the chat, that's okay. you feel free to hit me up on Twitter or X, or if you leave it in the comments here, I think I should see it. Sometimes it doesn't give me the notification, but I try and check as much as I can. So any questions, feel free to let me know. Hopefully I can help out. Aside from that, thanks everyone that was tuned in. We had a few viewers going throughout it, so appreciate everyone that was lurking. Hopefully got a little bit of information out of it and helped you somewhat. If it did, please consider hitting subscribe. We're getting real close to that 100 mark. I think we're 90 or 91 or 92, somewhere in that low 90s mark. So we're really close to 100. If we can get there by the end of this round, we'll be hit 100 before halfway through the season technically. So would love for that to happen. We'll see how we go though. Won't be the end of the world if we don't get there. Hopefully we definitely do by the end of the year. But yeah, last recap of my moves, as mentioned earlier, it's still undecided. We're going to have to wait on the injury news on Bannon, Doolittle, Lopez, and Prather. So if they all miss, even if I boost it, I've got to keep one anyway. But that's fine. Hopefully things work out well. It's good that basketball is nearly back. The NBL anyway is nearly back. Good luck everyone for round 10 and for the back half of the year. Any questions again, let me know. And we will see you in the next one.